On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, Judge says 18 and 20-year-olds can buy pistols. Bambi knocks over a target. My Vivek Ramaswamy conspiracy theory, and I didn't know John Wayne walked like that.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Danny and Marky, and this is episode 324 of the John 1911 podcast. It's been a hot minute since we've had Danny online, and I actually had to I had to thank Danny for a minute. So, welcome back out from the cold, stranger.
Well, it's actually nice to be out of the cold. I'm glad the construction season's over. We actually had a few nights last week where it went down to 14. And it's when you get out there at 6:30 in the morning, it's still just a tad chilly. So yes,
Oh, yeah.
I am off until you see green leaves budding.
Oh, that's good. So, I didn't know if you were just off until maybe after the first of the year. So,
Well, I might have a hit or miss here or there, check some plans and things like that. Other than that, yeah, it's pretty much. Speaking about plans, I think that you've been doing a lot of a lot of blueprint reading lately yourself.
yeah, there's been a lot going on since you and I have talked with range construction. I had to totally, there was some debate whether, and I mentioned this on pod before, there was some debate as to whether I really needed to cancel all the hunters. And I've proven to be right because we even had a couple days where I'm on property and they're like redoing the driveway. Like we're having, because the thing is, we're bringing in cement trucks and all this heavy equipment, and and this time of the year it's wet. So the reality is I have to build a road. So, we had to do all that. Well, then they were like, well, the culvert up front by the real road is kind of small and kind of crushed. We'd like to put in a big culvert in because they're bringing in big rigs. And
Right,
like there was like 2 days. I mean, like they were separate days where we're on the property and we can't get off until they're done. You know what I mean? So like
right.
having hunters and like, oh my God, heaven forbid, like imagine if we had like SWAT guys on that property and like I don't know, there was some call, like some emergency where like they had to get activated. Like I wouldn't expect they would be activated because they kind of rotate on and off, like a couple of them. You know what I mean? Like, but like just like if there was an emergency and they had to get off the property, it would be a bitch like to get their vehicles. You know what I mean? And so it's just like I just was like no,
Did
like we got too much
um
going on, and it's.
with all those
I was
heavy
right.
truck. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, with all those heavy trucks and the construction equipment and redoing the driveway, did they have to reshoot the grade of the driveway for the drainage for everything to run out right?
No, because we're building on a pretty flat spot, and then where the driveway is, it's where we've always driven in that field, and it's got a pitch to it, so it drains fine. Like it's not um like it's going to be fine. And if I gotta dress up some gravel, I've got that
Right.
landscape rake or whatever they call that thing.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah. So, oh, I was telling you offline before we went started. We've even had a very major gun company asking about you. They're like, "Does Danny still do the podcast?" I'm like, "Yes, he does. Yes, he does." So,
Yeah.
he's
Well,
just.
it's really nice when the manufacturers are worried about where Danny is. So now I feel wanted.
Okay. Well, your life is full. So your
Yeah.
life is full. So,
I'm like the canker
I'll tell
sore
you.
that never heals.
Oh, dude, that's nasty.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
it's spur of the moment analogy, but anyway, as far as our podcast tonight, are we gonna just freelance it, extemporaneous? How do you want to do this?
Well, you and I haven't really talked that much. There's so much going on. I
Oh, it's
figured we just
insane.
free flow it. I mean, I'll tell you this: we did have some. I haven't put the pictures up, but we had a little bit of like random vandalism on the range, and
Really?
I was like, what the hell is this? And this happened right when the construction started, and I'm like, what the fuck? I even asked the one guy because he's from the company that did all the dozer work to build
Right.
the pit and the rifle range. Like they had here for those that are new. If you look at pictures on the internet of the John 1911 gun range, and you look at the rifle range, and you look at like you can see from like let's say from the 100 man, well, man, let's say from the about 150-yard target back to the 500, 600-yard target, that was all woods. All that stuff back there I cut, that when we started, that was forest. And they had to push all that stuff out. Like we had
Really?
major dozer work done. Just stripping all that and then putting in the pit and all that. So anyway, they had when we did that years ago, the one guy, he's kind of a Jeep guy, and so he had gone back there and was driving around. Like I'm sure it was quote for work to recon some of the work, but I mean, there's no bullshit. He was kind of enjoying being back there with his Jeep, basically mudding. And I asked him because the damage we had, there's a target, as a matter of fact, about this 150-yard target. It's got three T posts in it, and it's got a metal receiver in the top that's for a 2x4. That's why it's got three T posts in it. And then it's got a B or a C a BC steel target zone, and the target zone, which is heavy, probably weighs 20. I don't know, maybe 18 pounds. Was knocked over with its head like it had been dropped. Its head kind of embedded in the dirt, and two of the three T posts were folded over
Really?
like something had run over it, but one of the T posts was still up in the air. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what the fuck was this? And it's like, I didn't see any blood on it, and I didn't see any bare metal scraping, and, I didn't see any tracks. But you're kind of looking like we're like, maybe somebody would come down. And I was like, well, maybe like hunters, because we have hunters, maybe from the neighboring farm, because they have a bunch of hunters over there. Maybe they came onto the property and, maybe they were chasing a deer and like they're driving there at night and they just came over the hill and whacked into this thing. But it's like there was no metal on metal scraping. There's still no tracks. And how would they knock over two T posts and not the third one?
It
And again, the T posts are kind of they're damaged because they have bullet holes in them, so they can it's not like they're super strong. And I was looking at them like, man, the only thing that makes sense is I think a buck hit it.
could be.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything.
You
It
know,
might not be vandalism. It might be just nature. It might have been crazy
it's
during the rut and ran into it. You never know.
yeah, it was bull. Oh no, bullwinkle's vandalism. No, so yeah, I mean no, you know, I mean we're gonna have to hunt bullwinkle now. So, you let them slide for 1 year of no hunting, and this is how they pay me back. Okay, that's fine. Next year, all the snipers are going to be on that property hunting your asses.
Well,
So,
yeah. Well, you have to, you have to adorn the outside of the of the shed with some antlers anyway. It'll look good.
yeah, because I've got from the armory, the old armory, I've got trophy mounts and stuff. And, like I got a few things. I got a deer and I've got a pig head. The deer head I shot is actually from Owensboro, Kentucky, and then the pig is from Texas. And it's like you really can't put a whole lot of that stuff up, in an office. I mean, some of it gets to be too big. Well, it's like, well, shit, with this big ass barn, I mean, like I can go to Africa and bring all the animals back,
Maybe you
put
should.
them all up, yeah. So that's kind of what I'm thinking is we'll just start hanging stuff up out there. So I'm looking forward to it, but it's going to be a full blown, operation. They're actually going to start pouring the foundation this week
Nice.
because it is a port. It's not a pole barn. It's a poured foundation. It's going to take 2 days. It's going to take 2 days to pour that foundation.
It's going to be a
For
whole lot of
yeah,
concrete yardage then.
yeah, for a fucking barn. Yeah, 2 days. It's gonna, because and then also I don't know if I told you this. So I've got behind the shipping container, is a little hill that is the 600-yard shooting position. You can shoot from 6, and I can fake 7. And that's always been grassy and like it's by the existing shipping container, and it's I don't know, like there's animals now kind of under the shipping container. There's mice, They kind of live under there. Then there's snakes to feed on the mice, and there's ticks. Because it's essentially a farm. That's kind of what it's like. So you get down there laying in the ground and doing stuff, and the people get eaten up with ticks, especially this last year. So this year, since we're doing all this construction and all this stuff on property, it's like, well, let's just go ahead and knock off the top of that knoll, make it flat, and let's pour a cement pad there. And then we can shoot prone from there, so I don't have to be in the grass, from cement at 600 and, 5 and whatever from there if we want to. Or the pad's going to be big enough, I can even just put a bench there and we could shoot off a bench there's one under the picnic shelter. So I'm trying to knock out a bunch of projects.
And
So I'm
the end
pretty
of yeah,
excited.
and the end of the year and cold weather is biting you right in the rear end trying to get it done too.
Oh yeah, I've been trying to get this thing built for months, and now here I am in December, and literally we're looking at the weather every day, trying to figure out when it's going to get too cold overnight to pour that foundation. So they got a break in the weather. They're gonna do it Thursday, Friday,
Right, exactly.
and
Well,
then the Amish guys, they're probably not even going to be able to start actually building the barn until January because they're busy building other stuff.
right.
Because the Amish guys that I hired, they build like $1 million pig barns. Like they're really high end barn guys. So, but you know what? They show up. So as opposed to the hillbillies, I'll tell you that. If you get the high dollar Amish guys, they do show up, and they show up. I mean, I've even got an Amish cement guy. I was joking with the one contractor because the Amish guy the cement guy's an Amish guy too, and he's measuring stuff, and I showed him the rifle range, and I'm like, hey, this is shooting position over here too. This is what I'm thinking, and so I got a rifle out, and I'm laying down prone. He spray paints it out and all this, and kind of sees the pitch because I don't want to be dipping down with the rifle. I like it horizontal. And after he leaves, I asked the contractor. I'm like, how does I'm kind of confused. Like, how does a cement work with an Amish guy? Like, how does an Amish guy show up with cement? And he goes, they call the cement truck like everybody else. I'm like, this is so like okay, I don't know, like I expected like an Amish like a giant black horse carriage with like 6 Clydesdales and a bunch of cement in the back of it. I didn't know like a bunch of kids back there stirring it. Like I didn't know what to expect. And he's like, no, they just call the cement truck like everybody else. So
Well, but you should have asked them. They have phones.
oh, dude,
What?
I haven't told you this. So, all right, I don't know if I've even told this on pod, so I may be repeating this. So the one guy I ended up hiring, he came out for the bid, and we get to talk. Turns out he's a gun guy, and he's like, "Yeah, we're going to the Louisville Gun Show this weekend with my son." I'm like, "Holy shit, he's an Amish gun guy! Like, I'd like to go to Louisville Gun Show with you." So, um, it's like, well, here's the right. I show them around, like, we have a functioning rifle range here, and kind of this is what's going on, and we have law enforcement that shoot here, and all this other kind of stuff. And so I pull out my truck gun, and which is it's this integrally suppressed AR Gemtech thing that runs great now, and I'm like, you ever shot a suppressed gun? He's like, I've seen them on. He said, no, I've never shot one, and I was like, here's how it works. Let me show you. I said, you got to wear hearing protection. Then I took a shot without him having hearing protection so he could hear the 5.56, the sonic crack of it. And I'm like, just, you hear how it's kind of down there and we're shooting steel targets. And I was like, go ahead and try it. And just as he getting ready to shoulder the gun, I'm like, I had this flash of, holy shit, wait a minute. I put my hand over the aim point on top of the gun and I go, this has an electronic red dot in it. Is that like a problem for you, like using electric or electronics or anything? Because I want to be respectful of your religion. And he goes, yeah, yeah. He didn't even miss a beat. He's like, yeah, yeah, it's fine. So then, okay, because I was like, I'm like canning the Jewish guy ham sandwich. I was like, holy shit, wait, that's not kosher. Like I didn't know like if I was going to insult the guy. So he shoots the gun. He thinks it's cool. Whatever. He ends up getting the job. I have to go to his house to sign the contract. And, it's dark, it's at night, but I'm like, do they even have electricity or lights? There's no lights on the outside of the house. You go into his house, it's a bunch of lights, like hospital lights, like that white blue light that you see in all the
Right.
hospitals that they have. I don't know what the source was. Big house. There's like 12 or 15 girls in this house, women, his wife. There's daughters, maybe I think there's grandkids. Like he's got a whole menagerie of people, and there's like a few young boys, but there's no like military age males, like 13, 14. There's no young men in this house. And we're sitting there kind of going over the paperwork, and the girls are kind of looking, but they don't talk too much. And I see some lights come down the road, some headlights. All of a sudden, a boy, like maybe 17, he walks through a door and he goes, "Hey, there's someone's pulling up." And the Amish guy, the father, he goes, "Yeah, that's Jack. He's showing up with metal." And he says to his son, "Go get the skid steer and put the metal over into whatever in the barn." And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm worried about these dudes being able to use electricity. Like literally, we're writing out the contract on three-part. It's three. Like remember the old copy paper? Press hard. You're making three copies.
Right.
Literally, we're writing the contract on three-part carbon paper. So there's three copies, and it's like I don't know what they can do or not do, but apparently they can own and drive skid steers.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how any of this shit works.
Well,
I didn't say
how does
anything,
he
but I'm
get out to
like,
the job site? Does he hitch a horse to a
oh,
post out at your place or what?
well, he's only about 4 miles away, but that's still pretty far. All these because I've had multiple of them come onto the property, they have drivers. So what
Really?
they do is they'll show up, like sometimes they'll be in a car, sometimes they'll be in like an SUV or a truck. And like they'll show up and all the Amish guys will get out, and the guy who's behind the wheel never gets out of the car. He just immediately pulls out his phone. One Amish guy had a female driver, and they'll pull out their phone and they start scrolling through their phone because their job is they're like the Uber for Amish people. And then all these Amish guys, they all have cell phones, but they don't have voicemail. You can't leave them voicemail. You can't text them, but they will leave you voicemail. But there's no option to leave them a voicemail, and at least the ones I called. And then it turns out all of them with those cell phones, they don't own the cell phone. The cell phone is in the driver's name,
I didn't know that.
and that's how they get around the whole like I guess religious restrictions. And some of the locals out there were telling me that they're like, yeah, there's different kinds, and like there's different groups of Amish, and they were telling me they're like, yeah, we got some of them out here that drive tractors. And it's like, okay, like he's like, he said like there was a group that came in, like an Amish group that came in from Pennsylvania or upstate Ohio, and they tried to tell the local Amish guys to do something, and they're all like, "Fuck you, we're doing our own thing." I shouldn't say it like that, but they're doing like we're doing our own thing. We're the new whatever their rules are, because they just break off, and it's like the Catholic Church. There's the Catholics and the Protestants and the Methodists and the Episcopalians and the Lutherans. Or
Right.
as the Catholics say, the goddamn Lutherans. And it's just I thought it was just interesting. Like I'm literally gone from like, whoa, don't look at this red dot. Like
Yeah.
they're so
To go get the
nice.
skid steer.
Yeah, go get the skits, and I'm like, I'm a fucking moron. I mean, this guy. I'm so glad that they're so nice because they just either must think I'm an asshole or I'm a dumbass. I don't know. I don't know which one it is, but it's But I don't know. Like this guy does a good job and gets all this built. I don't know. I may be hanging out with him going to the gun show. So
Well,
yeah. So
that's because you have to drive them.
look, I'm spit water everywhere.
You will.
Oh my god,
Well, you
that's
do.
funny. Yeah, I guess I have to drive him.
Yeah. So you're driving to Louisville. You idiot. You didn't think of that, did you?
Yeah. No, I didn't.
What are you gonna Amish Uber? Come on.
Yeah, so maybe might have to have our. Well, the joke is we're going to make the barn the John 1911 Department of Transportation Department,
Oh,
the dot department, and then we'll have to have the Amish. We'll have the Amish furniture department.
that way you'll have
Yeah.
everything covered.
Well, you know what we could do? We could start Amish. We could start Amish woodworking for furniture for firearms. Amish made shotgun stocks and
Oh,
Amish made
oh, oh,
rifle stocks.
no, no, that's a fantastic segue. Did you see that? Was it a judge that overturned the pistol brace ban? Did you see anything about that?
Well, so there's been two things. Um, a federal judge is they've well, there was one that they I guess they struck it down or they did something earlier in the year, and then this judge he he struck it down. He basically it's not a ruling that it's over, but it's a ruling that basically says because they issued an injunction with the ATF like you're going to stop using these fucking things because we're going to get rid of them. And the judge, this last ruling, if my understanding is correct, basically looked at what the ATF did, looked at the Constitution, then looked at the interpretations from is it Bruin in New York, Heller and Bruin in particular about Bruin basically says when passing gun laws, you have to look at the stuff historically the way things were kind of meant to be, as opposed you just can't make shit up. You have to kind of base it and so. Well, no, I have that wrong. It's for the other one. There was an administrate. No, it's the administrative. There's a violation of the administrative, like for like some rule the the not the administrative. I'm gonna say the administrative department. The bureaucracy can't just make up rules. The Congress has to pass new rules, and so basically he struck down the pistol braces because he's like, you guys don't have the authority to do this. Congress has to do this. So they struck that down. But then did you hear about this one came out today? Did you hear about the ruling on 18 and 20-year-olds and handguns?
Oh, they can't buy them in a lot of states.
Well, there's been a rule since 1968, the Gun Control Act of 1968. Like the Gun Control Act, I think created the point system for importing stuff. It stopped the importation of a lot of the machine guns. If I recall, like because there's an amnesty, even in '68, or like for the import, you can't nothing. Things can't be imported, which doesn't make complete sense because there's stuff I don't remember how it all works. But a lot of the modern FFL system and regulations that we have today in the United States really begin in 1968, and this is after you're after Bobby Kennedy was shot and Martin Luther King was shot and all the violence in 1960s. So one of the rules is that when you're 18, you're an adult, and you're 18, you can buy a shotgun, and you can go hunting, you can vote, you can join the military. You are an adult. You can leave your parents' house. They can't, you don't have to be emancipated. But what they did is they passed a law, they passed a regulation that says you cannot buy a handgun and you cannot buy pistol ammunition. 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and 20-year-olds cannot do this. They can get it from their parents. They can get it in a private transfer, but an FFL cannot sell pistol ammunition to 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. It's a restriction that's been around since 1968.
Wow.
Today, a judge has ruled. Somebody brought a challenge based under the new the Bruin standards with the historical. There has to be there's no historical precedence in the United States on like 19-year-olds are prohibited from owning handguns. That does not exist anywhere. They just made that shit up in 1968. So he struck down the 68 18, 19, 20-year-old clause.
Really?
Well, he basically issued. I think he issued a. he issued a was it a final ruling? We I expect that it'll be appealed probably on Monday. The Justice Department will file an appeal to a higher court. They'll probably do it en banc, or they'll do an appeal to the appellate, probably to the three. Then they'll do an en banc, and then they'll go from there. But
Oh yeah, I don't follow. Well, that's what's going on in Illinois too. In the Socialist Republic, Peoples of Illinois. Did you hear about the new law that they instituted?
no, what, is this a gun law?
Oh yeah, yeah, gun law. Okay, if you have any weapon that holds over 10 rounds, they want you to register your mags and call into the state and register all the everything you have. Well, the compliance rate has been 0.0001% of 1%.
Huh.
That's basically the big
I
finger.
I haven't. You know, I I've heard there's something. I heard somebody who's a Second Amendment lawyer make like there was some headline. He was like, nobody's complying with this law, and I didn't get a chance to read it, and I guess that's probably what it was.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So they would, if they're going to register them, are they going to be issuing serial numbers?
I didn't get into it because I pretended that I didn't see it. So let's just say I'm not in the 0.0001%.
Yeah. Oh God.
If
I
that
mean,
narrows it
fucking.
down for you.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, number one, it's unconstitutional. Yeah, I mean, and you can't have anything over 10 rounds in Illinois.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, that's it.
that's why people like Wilson have to sell 10-round magazines for these 18-round guns.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. I mean, it's like wow. I mean, they just don't stop, do they? The
No.
commies never stop.
And here's the thing, the Supreme Court is going to shut it down. But yet, what pisses me off, pot or not, I'm going to say it, is that these lunatic liberal states spend all the tax dollars fighting their liberal loony laws, knowing that SCOTUS is going to shut them down anyway, but they don't care how they use the tax money to fight them. It's just like, here, we'll do it. I mean,
Well, yeah.
between Illinois, California, yeah, and New York, it's it's lunacy. It just is.
Well, I mean, they do that here in Ohio too. Cincinnati, like, and I've said this before on the pod, like Cincinnati banned a lot of what I would call standard capacity magazines, even in like shotguns and stuff. And they did these bans, and then finally in upstate Ohio, they called a preemption law, and so basically, the state of Ohio, the state house passed a law that said no municipality can pass a gun control legislation that is more restrictive than what the state allows. So basically, if the state says you can have a 30-round mag, the city can suck a dick.
Right.
And that kind of settled all this because you would have Cincinnati would do it, Columbus try to do it, obviously Cleveland would be involved. And so they passed this, and it was, I think it might even be the Constitution. I don't remember how they did this. Well, this year, the, I have always complained the city of Cincinnati is going to hell and Hamilton County is going to hell. And pretty soon this place is going to turn into a shithole. The city of Cincinnati has got a bill that they're trying to pass to ban, magazine capacity bans and a quote assault weapons bans. And it's just like, it's in the law. It's in the state law that you can't do this. They're going to do it so they can fight because it's all about just showing off.
That's
But
right.
the thing is, and like, because you and I haven't talked, Cincinnati used to be kind of a bastion of conservatism down here in, the corner of Ohio where like, Cleveland was, kind of super liberal. Well, that shit's over in Cincinnati. The Democrats almost completely taken over city council. They have completely taken over the county government. The sheriff is now a lesbian liberal that can't even run the jail successfully. Um, the mayor is basically a borderline commie at this point, and the only one that's left is the prosecutor, Melissa Powers, and she's got to be pushing 70, and she was really just a fill-in candidate to take over for a guy who was on his second round of being prosecutor until he finally had health issues and he had to stop doing it. But like they had nobody, they didn't really have anybody who Republicans that can run and do things. And so Hamilton County is turning into California. It's turning into a
Wow.
one party. It's turning into a one party
Rural.
system, and like that's why it's like getting out, getting the armory out, getting stuff out, because it's not just the city, it's the county. And it's like, this is crazy. And, the money's good and it's time to go. And so, we got. So
I don't blame you.
it's just, yeah. They just they don't learn. No, they just want to, they don't care. They're traders. So,
Well,
yeah, I mean,
and where Cincinnati geographically sits within stone throws, you have a few states that are very red, which total all the difference in the world. Which is where you're at. It's sort of advantageous maybe for you to completely get out of Cincinnati area if it's going that way.
well, and it's like there's debates now as to where the business is ultimately going to end up. Like, I would say up until about a week ago, like right now, John 1911 as an entity still resides in Ohio. It's not in Hamilton County, but it's in Ohio. And I would have said about a week ago, there's a good chance it's going to end up in Kentucky. Some stuff has come up that may not end up being the case. It could end up in Indiana. It could end up in Kentucky, or it could end up way out of Hamilton County.
Right.
We're still trying to work a lot of that stuff out. But when you live in a tri-state area, in particular, especially better than a two-state area, but a tri-state area, like if I there's a loop around the city called 275, and literally it's Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana. I'm in all three states. I can drive in all three states every day, like not even bat an eyelash, and it makes it real easy for companies to just cross a border to avoid bullshit, or to go to a more tax advantageous place
Right.
or a regulatory place, or maybe somebody would just treat them better. Well, and even in your state,
It's a
you
people's
have,
republic. It's not a state.
well, and in the People's Republic, so you've got Springfield Armory, which has been there forever. You've got not Rock Island.
Rock
What's it
Island.
called?
Yes, Rock Island's in Illinois.
No, that's Rock Island Arsenal, but the Rock Island Gun Company's in the Philippines. You've got there's a gun company. Oh, it's escaping me. Rock River, I think Rock River Arms is in Illinois, and then the other one you had that was there for a long time is Les Baer, Baer,
Right.
and he made 1911s and AR-15s. Crazy Les Baer. Well, he was in Genesco. How do you say it? Genesco.
Geneseo.
Geneseo. I've
Gen
never been there.
Geneseo.
I said Geneseo,
Genesco, you
Illinois.
said.
Well, no, I'm saying Geneseo now.
Yeah, well, that's because
Yeah,
you stand corrected.
yeah, yeah. I stand corrected. And so he was in Geneseo, Illinois, for a long time, and the shit got just go crazy. And I don't have to look at a map, but I'm pretty certain Geneseo is on one side of a river and Iowa
Is
is
it
on the
right
other
on the
side of a
other?
river.
Yes,
Because all of a sudden Les Bear literally was like bloop, moved across the river, and everybody stayed working there. And
that's
now the Les Bear guns all have whatever Iowa on them. And they left. They got the fuck out.
right.
And I don't know long term what's going to happen to Ohio, because Ohio was a swing state, like as goes Ohio, kind of goes the country. And then you'll notice the past couple election seasons, they've they're like, Ohio's solidly conservative,
Right.
like it's not a battleground state anymore.
But it's
But
surprised, yeah, except for the abortion ban. That vote surprised me.
it doesn't surprise me. But it's like you're seeing that the abortion stuff. I'm seeing that the commies are taking over Cincinnati now. They've taken over Dayton. They've definitely taken over Columbus. They've always had Cleveland, and it's like, I don't know if I think I can count on Ohio being conservative long term in the future.
Well,
And so I don't know long term if I'm going to be here.
well, I myself just today, I stood in the mirror and I said to myself, I'm from Tennessee. You know why? Because I'm the only 10 I see.
Only 10 ice. Oh, God almighty. Hit me with the dad jokes.
Oh yeah, it's actually my grandkid told me that. So, I don't have a good punchline. But getting back to the industry stuff, with those pistol braces, it's going to end up in the Supreme Court, and they're going to spend all of these tax dollars just to lose. But as soon as they lose that, they'll come up with some other. Oh, these rivets aren't flush enough. This gun's illegal or something crazy. It doesn't matter. They don't stop. They just don't stop. It's to me, it's just mind boggling, and they could care less how much money that they spend of tax but dollar. You know, just to have prove their own point. It's insane, isn't it?
Well, okay. I mean, they've done this in New York. Did you hear the latest one about in New York?
No.
The latest company that's getting out of New York? Remington is closing their, I can't even say it. Is it Ilion? Ilion, New York? Yeah,
I don't know.
Ilion, New York. Ilion, New York. That's where Remington has a big factory. Actually, a K-Bar, I think, is there too. And their Remington is they're closing their plant in Ilion, New York, and I think they have a few more plants in some other places. Where they've moved some stuff down south. I mean, like Remington's a shell of what it used to be, but this plant in Ilion, New York, has been opened in 1828,
Wow.
and they're finally. I mean, 1828, 1828,
200 years almost.
almost 200 years, and they're fucking out. It's like these assholes that didn't think Colt could ever leave, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay,
Aren't
we'll
they in
see.
aren't they in Georgia or Alabama now or somewhere?
I don't know if Colt is completely out. I know Kimber's moved. Kimber's in Alabama.
That's
I
what it
think
is.
No, Beretta is in Tennessee. I don't remember where Ruger is now. I'm thinking Colt. Well, I don't know. Colt was bought by CZ, and CZ doesn't care about Connecticut. I don't know where Colt is. I mean, Colt could end up being the next one
Hmm.
if they're not out already, or just have a. It's usually how it starts with these companies is they're opening up a satellite office or a
Oh
satellite.
yeah.
Yeah. They're like, well, we're going to have a satellite office in like the FBI did this. The FBI, they opened up a facility at, I think, in Redstone in Alabama. It's like, yeah, we're going to put some stuff out here. And it's like, why would you put stuff out there? It's like, well, it's like, more centrally located, maybe for the rest of the country. Um, there's already a big government footprint there. Also, if Washington gets nuked, we would have, we could still have a presence. And then it was like we're going to build a second FBI headquarters, like our second FBI operations center, and they kind of backed up off of that. But it always starts with the toehold, like we're going to open up a small factory, and like H&K is like we're going to have a small factory in Columbus, Georgia.
Hmm.
And then it's like, now we're going to be making G36s here. Like, I mean, I don't think they've gotten to that point yet, but it's coming.
Where's
Yeah.
where's Wilson located out of?
Wilson is it? Well, Wilson, as you know it, is located in Berryville, Arkansas. And
Okay.
Bill Wilson, my understanding, I'm not going to say he's retired because he's still kind of, I mean, he's like the conductor and does a lot. I think he does a lot of R&D and research and product development, but I believe he's living full time across the border in Texas at his ranch. Apparently, I've never been there, but my understanding is he has hunting property, a large ranch in Texas, and so that's where he really is. And so, and I mean, I think it's within driving distance
Hmm. Well,
of one.
he's busy working on the striker fires.
Oh, you saw that on the website. I didn't know if you. I haven't had a chance to talk about that on the podcast yet.
I seen it. Of course, just because I've been working a lot does not mean that I don't take my my iPhone into the John with me. It's always good reading.
Yeah, there's my government tax dollar. No, there's Illinois' government tax dollars at work right there, buddy. Are you getting? Wait a minute. Are you getting like prevailing wage? What are you getting up there?
Actually, more because it's consultant wages.
Oh yeah, gold plated. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no double dipper. But anyway,
Oh, double dipper. Hey, okay. We thought we weren't going to bring up the Jenna Jameson movie anymore. All right.
yeah,
Okay.
but
Do you know
you know,
what's
oh,
you
go
know what's
ahead.
the difference? Let's see. Hold on. What's the joke? Uh, hold on. Let me see here.
Come on, if you're going to
Oh,
chastise me,
hold
go
on.
ahead.
Hold on. I'm trying. How does this do? What's the difference between um hold on. How does this work? I'm fucking this up. This is terrible podcasting. I'm gonna screw this up.
You're out of practice.
Well, yeah, I'm out of practice. What's the hold on? That's the difference between um what's the difference between Jenna Jameson and three hold on, what's it? Fuck. I you know what? I can't remember
I'm
how the
glad that
joke
you're
is.
not headlining a comedy club right now because I'd be
Yeah.
walking out.
Yeah. Holy shit! Yeah, like what's I've ruined it. Like, what's the difference between Jenna Jameson and or what's the difference? What's the difference in a joke and what's the difference in a joke and three dicks? And well, Jenna Jameson can't take a joke. That's the joke.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure somewhere Tito Ortiz is having a pain in his heart. That was one of her husbands, I guess.
Did you see that the that pop singer, that Billie Eilish, she came out yesterday.
Came out as what?
The closet, I guess. And her statement was, "Well, I thought everybody knew I was gay." And she has a ton of
I had
fans.
I hadn't even heard that. I mean, not that I care, but I mean, she's always seemed kind of weird.
Yeah, she
Like
is.
the last I had seen of her was she was this young girl, and she was kind of a thicker girl, and she kind of had big boobs. She was going through that awkward teenager stage, and it's all this moody shit too because she's a teenager. And so she would always wear these crazy baggy clothes. I remember she wore like lime green shit, like jumpsuits or something. And and I remember a couple, like maybe it's like earlier this year, one of the news outlets were it was obviously a story that was fed by her publicist, but what she was doing is she was starting to dress like a sexy adult. She was wearing like lingerie, or she was wearing body flattering clothing. And like a lot of her younger fans, or fans that have been around since she was wearing baggy clothes, said that she wasn't, you know, like she wasn't staying to her roots, or she was selling out, or whatever bullshit they were trying to hang on it. Again, I don't know anything about Billie Eilish, but apparently she was just trying to, get some pussy like the rest of us. I mean, I
Well,
don't know what the.
no, I got one better than that. you, you know me and my demeanor and how I'm usually just an idiot. Well, we were out for dinner and our waiter comes up to us, except our waiter about about the size of Mrs. Danny, and you know what size that would be.
She's a very small woman.
Younger, but had short hair and had the General Custer hair goatee coming out of her face. You can't hide a
Wait a
woman's
minute.
hips. She was trying to be the guy.
Wait a minute. 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 So you saying this was a woman and
It's
she
a
had full facial hair?
no, it's a woman, and she had like a General Custer, like mustache and chin music and things like that. Short
Yeah.
hair and trying to walk like a guy, but you cannot hide a female's hips
I
or
mean, did she have real facial hair, or was
yes,
that shit
real
glued to her?
facial hair. So somebody's been
So she
popping
was
the hormones.
she's juicing like crazy. If she's a girl and she's taken enough shit that she's got facial hair, that I mean, they don't take extra medicine to grow facial hair, do they? Because the guys, there are guys, if
Well,
they
I
had
don't know
medicine that just grew
that's
facial hair,
I figured that would be more of your circles. You would know the answer.
I don't like, I don't have good facial hair,
You don't
but
have
like I'm
head hair.
thinking, I don't have, but well, yeah, somebody, um, we had, I think it was Mongo on the website. I posted some stuff on some French guns lately, and I was like, yeah, we're kind of, kind of becoming, posting some like, I don't know, I made some like vague reference to Ian McCollum, and he was like, dude, you got to grow a lot more goddamn hair before you can be a francophile. I was like, yeah, I guess
But
you're
I
right.
mean, you could know me
Hey,
well
hey,
enough.
hey,
You could
look,
only
hey,
have seen
hey,
my face when I seen that one.
yeah,
And
I
I'm
mean,
getting kicked under the table by you know who. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up, Denny. Don't you say any stop staring, just order.
did you ever see? Did you ever see? I actually like this movie. Um, like I've had I've had lots of gay friends, like extremely gay. Extremely, it comes out wrong, but whatever. You ever see the movie called The Birdcage?
Yes.
You remember that movie?
Yes.
So there's a scene in that movie. There's a scene in this movie. I have this image right now from the scene you describing your waitress, your waiter, your waiter. And technically, you want to call her she wants to be called the waiter. That's fine. But so there's Robin Williams and Nathan Lane, and Robin Williams is the comedian. Nathan Lane is this very famous Broadway actor, and he's very effeminate, and the people assumed he was gay for many years. So anyway, they're playing a gay couple, and like, so one's like the husband. This, but I'm explaining to the listener. One's kind of like the butchy husband, and the other
Right.
one's kind of the wife. And Nathan Lane is the wife, and there's a situation where they decide that the wife, Nathan Lane character, who is way too effeminate and like is sashaying around as a guy, but was like a girl, and so they're trying to give him lessons to act more like a man. And the example, they're like, "Are you familiar with John Wayne?" And so the guy goes, Robert Williams goes, "Let me show you how John Wayne. Let me show you to John Wayne walks." And he walks and comes over and like, how's it going, partner? And so he's like, now try that. Don't sashay over. And Nathan Lane walks across the room as John Wayne, and it's the gayest fucking thing you ever fucking saw. But it's the perfect John Wayne. And Robin Williams is looking at him, and it goes, "What? Did I do something wrong?" And Robin Williams goes, "No, I just never realized John Wayne walked like that." And so I'll have to put that clip in the show
Yes,
notes.
you do.
That is hilarious.
Well,
So
here's the thing. It doesn't matter. You could cut your hair short on top. You could have, as a female, and you could have all the facial hair you want, but you can't hide your hands, just like a guy that turns into a girl. You cannot hide your hands, and you cannot hide your lower torso, no matter what you do. Because, like it or not, guys and girls are both shaped differently.
I
Nothing you
mean,
can do
yeah.
about it.
Is there a John Wayne can't take a dick joke here, or can't take a
Well,
joke
yeah,
in this?
three of them.
Yeah.
But it just so I guess to each their own. That's all well and good, but at least you know she wasn't out there collecting on the dole of Social Security, saying you're nuts or something or this or that. Actually, out working hard too.
I I saw a thing on the internet. It was like a joke, and a guy
Excuse me.
he's and you have to read it to understand it. But he's like driving in his car as fast as he can, and it was like he goes, when you find out I'm racing to the local whatever it was, to take the biggest SHE/IT in the unisex bathroom that they've ever seen, and this she it and it's again, it's funnier if you read it. So it's a terrible podcast, but that's kind of where we're at. So no, so I mean, did you? I don't know. Did you tip your waiter? What was the name on the ticket? Butch, or was it like Candy? Like what was the waiter's name?
You really, Chris.
Okay,
So
you don't even know, do you? You were so
which way? Chris is a male and a female name. So
was it really Chris?
yes,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Well, that's
So
yeah.
but like I said, it is what it is, and actually, it was a damn good waiter waitress, and really good, and worked hard.
And that's all that really
Yeah,
counts.
it's hard to even find somebody when you go out for dinner to actually be a good waiter or waitress anymore. You know how that goes. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. It's enough of the liberal stuff. I'm ready for politics whenever you are. I
Oh,
have got
I
such a
dread
rep.
politics at this point.
Well, there ain't no politics then.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna make some political statements here because it's kind of topical and it's kind of political,
Good.
but just to prove a point.
Go ahead.
So the war in the war in the in Gaza between Israel and Palestine. Okay,
Oh, the vacation,
I just want to
the
make
the new vacation spot.
yeah. So okay, like a lot of the reporting people you know it's been surprising. I guess we probably shouldn't be, but it's been surprising for a lot of people to see just how anti-Semitic or biased people can be. And even in the reporting or the assumptions that people make when they talk about something. And so here's the first one. Like everybody would say this statement. And I'm listening to this statement, I'm like, I am familiar with Gaza, and it's not like this. But they would call Gaza an open air prison. Gaza, this open air prison. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's not true. But because somebody said it, and they're all repeat, like they all literally everybody was repeating it. Whether you were even as simplified as for the war or against the war, supporting the Israelis, but everybody like, well, yeah, open air prison. It's like okay, it's like well, that's not true. Okay, and it was like then they're arguing about there's no there's no whatever in these hospitals. There's no tunnels, and it's like and then they found all these fucking
Oh,
tunnels.
did you see the
Like
pictures
yeah,
of those tunnels? Oh, it was
whole yeah
insane.
shit.
It was insane. The one, oh, I'm trying to think of her. He likened the tunnels under the hospital in Gaza as the tunnel rats in Vietnam.
Yeah, I mean it's like the one hospital. It's known as been the headquarters of Hamas for years. The UN's acknowledged this. We've known this, and all of a sudden, when the war starts, like there's no whatever under like what was it? Somebody pointed this out that lives in Israel that I was like, holy shit, I didn't even realize this. Like the Gaza Strip is about the size of like Washington D.C.
It's
Like
it's 10 square miles, I
population
think. Yeah.
and yeah, but it's like about 2 million people there, maybe three. I don't know if it's like two. I think it's like 2 million people, but I'm not sure. I think it's about 2 million people. And so there's like Al Shifa or Al whatever it's called, the one hospital. Then there was the hospital that got hit by the falling rocket. That Gaza fire that the dudes that one of is the was it the PJ Palestinian the Palestinian is PIJ the Palestinian Islamic Jihad fired a missile. It wasn't Hamas. It was PIJ. They fired a missile that misfired or broke apart and landed in this hospital parking lot. And like the area is under such heavy surveillance, everybody saw it. And then everyone denied it, and like everyone's like the Israelis bombed this fucking hospital, fuck them, and all. It's like they didn't. And then they even got Hamas guys talking on radios or phones, going, "What the fuck happened at the hospital?" And it's like, "Oh, the PIJ, they fired it." And like, "Oh fuck!" And it's like, "Yeah, it hit the hospital." I think, "Oh fuck!" Like they're talking about it, and they got him. And then Then it was to the point where no one still would believe it. So they basically had the show video surveillance of the rockets coming up and coming down, and and doing all this. Of course, Hamas claims like there's 500 dead people, and it's like there weren't 500 dead people. It's a terrible
Right.
situation. But then also they dropped that. Like the New York Times did it. Then it's like the hospital, like where's the tunnels? Where's the tunnels? And all okay, here's the fucking tunnels. And now they fucking dropped that. Now the latest thing is again open air prison. This week, a bunch of the media started showing the coastline of the Gaza Strip, and the hotels and the restaurants and the businesses and the beaches
What's left
and
of it,
all
you
this
mean?
stuff. Well, no. They were showing all of it from before,
Oh, okay.
like how built up it was, how nice it was. I mean, it is nice. It's a very nice part of the Mediterranean, and now the complaint is you're destroying like how great this place was, and now the Israelis are destroying all this because of the war.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a minute, you assholes. 7 fucking weeks ago, this was an open air prison, and now it's like, I mean, it's like the news is so retarded that they literally they say something like a 36-hour. They think you have the memory of a gnat. It's like, well, no, like this isn't true either. Like, I mean, come on, guys. And it's like, by the way, I mean, I hate to tell you this, but Israel isn't the only country that borders the Gaza Strip.
I think that,
Egypt's got a border.
yeah.
Egypt's got a border
Yes,
too.
they do. I think
Well, how come? Yeah.
I think the
Well, go ahead.
stupidest thing that I read, and the headline was, "Why did Israel retaliate as much as they did? It could have been more through negotiations." What about the beheading of the babies in front of their mothers? What about this? The hostages. You figure the people of Israel have been downtrodden upon for thousands of years. They ain't gonna take it no more. It's like,
Well, in fairness, because I have to be fair. Okay, so the beheading of the babies is something that somebody said it, and then it got repeated, and it got out of control because it was like 40 babies were beheaded. Well, and Israel has released this, and here's the difference between Hamas and Israel, because people are like, once people started like, wait a minute, where's all these dead babies? Where's all these beheaded babies? Not that there weren't dead babies, because I've seen the pictures. We published links to them if you want to go see them. And so Israel came out and they said they only have one documented case, the last I checked, of an actual baby being beheaded. So there weren't 40 babies beheaded. There were a ton of children killed, but there weren't 40 babies beheaded. Not that that's better, but
right,
if you the thing is, if you catch lies or disinformation and people use it to discredit you, like there is a story of a baby being put into an oven and burned alive in an oven, and that story appears to be true. That is one baby, and there was one child that had its head removed.
1 or 40, whatever, and they wonder why there's such retaliation. That's why.
Well, the next you get ready, you mark my words. So I started hearing this about 3 weeks ago from a lot of my Jewish friends that are either in Israel or they're in the Jewish community here in the United States. And I started hearing rumors, and it finally broke. It's now hit the mainstream media. And so the rumor was that I was hearing were that there were warning signs in Israel that this attack was going to happen.
I
And
heard that they had a
specific,
blueprint for that. I did hear that.
well, that started coming out this week in the Western press. Now they're claim it came out this week that they're claiming that that Israel got a copy of this thing, and they said it was aspirational, whatever. But there's another rumor that also was released in the Western media this week that I heard weeks ago, and it was from specifically they have like all these 18-year-olds have to serve. They get conscripted. They have to serve. I think it's 2 years or 18 months, 2 years in the IDF.
Right.
And so a lot of like these like girls typically. I mean, you have some combat arms females. Like there's a women that they have all female tank crews, at least one that I know of. They have an they have an all female combat unit. Like it's all women. It's pretty interesting. It's not like heavy mechanized infantry, but it's whatever. Um, and but like a lot of women will end up doing things like support roles or logistics. A lot, even in the U.S. military, a lot of women do logistics. Well, anyway, these women in particular, what they did is they did security station monitoring, and they were at these outposts outside the Gaza Strip, and they are looking at these security cameras, looking into the Gaza Strip. And one of these outposts got overrun, and a bunch of these women got killed. I think some of them were rescued, but a bunch of them were killed. Possibly some of them might have been taken into Israel, actual on-duty soldiers. And they were reporting they were reporting that they were seeing weird activity along the border. They were seeing like a mock-up of like a village and like tactical training, and they were seeing some other kind of something else. I don't know if they saw paragliders but they were seeing things, and they were like, something's going on, and they would report it up the chain of command, and it came down. Don't you worry about that. They're not going to do anything, or they can't do anything. Just ignore it. And in many ways, it kind of reminds me of like December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese hit Pearl Harbor, because there were these warning signs. And in retrospect, you look back and you're like, why didn't you see it? But, you know, ultimately they didn't. But what's going to happen, just like with December 7th, there's people today that still believe that FDR wanted the Japanese to bomb Pearl Harbor to get us into World War II, which is bullshit. We could have lost that war. And there's going to be a conspiracy now that comes up that Israel intentionally let this happen so they could use it as a false flag excuse to go into Gaza. I guarantee you it's coming.
Well,
It's
I,
coming.
getting back to the FDR thing, I've done a lot of reading about that, and there's been rumors, of course, you and I weren't even thought of, that some of the big businessmen that would profit from a war were alongside of FDR for all of this, because remember, it started with the Lend-Lease Act, and they were making good money off that. So they figured, well, geez, if we have a full blown war, imagine the money that we could make. I've read that theory too.
Well, a lot of people, the thing is with this kind of stuff is I can do better. Um, the 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 attack on Pearl Harbor was the commander of Pearl Harbor was a guy named Admiral Kimmel, and everyone's kind of familiar with his name. He was kind of just he was put in kind of disgrace, after the attack because they kind of blamed it on him, like how the Japanese got away with it. Well, before Admiral Kimmel was Admiral Richardson, and Admiral Richardson, the fleet was based in San Diego, and Admiral Richardson did not want to move the fleet. And they actually, during Admiral Richardson's times, it was the what the hell? I can't remember what they called it. I didn't know there was going to be a quiz. I would have studied. It was the name of the, like, it wasn't the Asian fleet. It wasn't the Pacific Fleet and Atlantic Fleet. It was the the shit, like the reconnaissance. Was it the reconnaissance force and the
Expeditionary Force, wasn't it?
no, 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 no. They had some weird the way they broke it up, and so the way they even called it. But then they switched it because they wanted to do a lot of so they did like they did like a central, maybe a central force. I have to look it up. So, but anyway, Richardson didn't want to move the fleet to Pearl Harbor because at the time Pearl Harbor was a backwater, and so what they would do is they would command him to do like fleet exercises, and they would, like, I remember they did this one big exercise off the west coast of Panama, and so to try to because they were expecting to go to the Japanese were the big threat in the Pacific. It wasn't a surprise. Like it really wasn't. Like we were actually before Pearl Harbor, we were drafting people. The military was getting bigger. Like all the stuff was getting bigger, and because they knew war was coming, they just didn't know quite where it was going to be. And obviously, FDR did not want us to get into the war, but privately really kind of did because he knew it was going to happen
Well, they
anyway.
also knew it was. You're breaking up, Marky.
Okay, well, okay, sorry about that. Well, I mean, the list, because sometimes we get a bad connection. So, what happens is Richardson basically ended up moving the fleet out to Pearl Harbor under FDR's orders. And he actually went on record and was like, I do not want to fucking do this. And like, this is going to be a problem because this is too remote. There's no support out here. And we're going to have to build this shit up. FDR, his motivation for moving that fleet and basing it at Pearl Harbor was his position was it would put us in closer striking range to the Japanese. It would threaten the Japanese, and, because he figured that if we went to war with the Japanese, it would be farther west into the Pacific. FDR did not think the Japanese were going to be able to sink all that shit at Pearl Harbor. Like FDR was like the fact that that hasn't been hung around his neck for all eternity is one of the greatest political miracles because FDR he ordered that to happen because he wanted to project power and he thought they were safe because it would take too long to get all the way across the Pacific. And so he was like, we'll just base all the shit at Pearl Harbor. This is awesome. And then we'll be able to sortie out and we can be able to patrol and we can do combat operations. We don't have to, we can be more forward deployed and don't have to have all these long legs for shit. And he was not prepared for that. And all these admirals, all these people were against this. And there were hearings about it, just like the 9/11 hearings. Because Richardson retired. Admiral Richardson retired from the Navy, I think, in 1940. He was like, too old, I'm retired, and then Kimmel took over. And then like 18 months later, all this shit happens. And, and Richardson had gone on the record about all this. But see, people have rewriting history, saying like it's all this grand big conspiracy everybody knew. It's like this idea of like the Battle of Midway, right? The Battle of Midway? Danny, you there? Did I lose you?
Right.
Okay, yeah, the battle. Okay, I can hear you
Yeah.
now. So the battle, the
No.
Battle of
Yeah. You were
Midway.
breaking up for a while.
Yeah, it's yeah. The internet here sucks. The Battle of Midway. It's like we sunk 4 Japanese carriers and all these ships, and I think we lost 2
4
carriers.
carriers.
Like, but what? Yeah, we lost what? How many carriers did we lose? Was it 2 or 1 or 2? And the Japanese lost 4 or 5. I don't remember what it was, but it's considered the turning point of the war. But the thing is, people that want to rewrite history, like about things like the Battle of Midway, they assumed that we would win it. We could have easily lost that. Are you there? I can't hear you if you're
We lost
talking.
one. The Hornet.
Yeah, we lost. Okay, all right. Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, so hopefully
They
this
lost
internet
4.
connection holds. But yeah, they lost 4. But like we could have very easily lost the Battle of Midway. Okay, we're back. Turns out my Wi-Fi fucking dropped. So again, the internet here is terrible. So I'm just having. So anyway, I apologize for that. So anyway, we could have very easily lost the Battle of Midway, and like people assume these things like, oh, it was a foregone conclusion. A lot of these theories that people come up with, these like, oh, it's this grand big conspiracy. This shit could have easily gone the other way. Like if we'd lost the Battle of Midway, imagine how the war in the Pacific could have gone.
Oh, exactly.
Even if we had beat the Japanese, what if the war had gone into 1947? It's like, people get a little bit too cute, on some of the.
Well, and you know, I I'm like you. I love history, and if people only knew why did the Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor in the first place?
Well, they were ordered to
I
by
mean,
their military
no,
leadership.
right, and why? Why did they want to? because of the oil embargo. They were starving out for oil, and that's exactly why they attacked us, the Dutch West Indies. Everything that was oil rich is what they were. Because remember, Japan's basically, you know, an island in an island that needs everything brought into it, and their oil reserves were down to, I mean, pretty much nil at that time.
Well, okay. There's a what you say is true. What you say is true, but there's another data point that you have to put into that. Japan was not Switzerland. Japan was an imperial power that was already invading. They were already in Manchuria. They were already spent years fighting
Correct.
in China, taken over Manchuria, turned it into called Manchukuo, as I recall. Again, I didn't study, and it was going to be a quiz. And they were expanding. They were as colonialist as any Western colonial power. And so there was going to be a clash between, Imperial Japan that wants to gobble up a bunch of colonies and expand its empire, and existing Western countries that,
Right.
it wasn't necessarily the United States that they had a problem with. But, like they're out there, it's like the Dutch by 1941 are super, super weak. The French out
Right.
there are super weak. You know what I mean? Like the French were as weak as they could have been, but the Dutch were weak. I think the Germans even still had some stuff possibly out there. Who
Well, the French had Vietnam.
well, yeah, the French
You
had all
know,
the
was
French had all kinds of stuff. All of of I think a lot of that is Southeast Asia. But then there were the
right.
Spanish colonies, and then we kind of were in those. So the America was a rising superpower, and we were kind of in the way because we're in the Pacific. Like there was always going to be there was a time in history. A lot of people don't realize this, that they expected, um, there was during World War I. The United Kingdom is this great big colonial power, naval power, and Germany was becoming a naval power and expeditionary power, and they knew that there was going to end up being a conflict because the British felt like they ruled the seas, and the Germans, they're kind of coming on the scene. Not unlike you're seeing the tensions between, say, the United States and China now. Well, there was even a time when it was expected that the British and the Americans were going to get in conflict. And there was even like part of the reason why we invaded Cuba? Well, they're sinking of the Maine.
The first, which time?
Oh,
Takes you
ouch.
which time?
Ouch. Yeah, that well, the one that worked.
Wow, come on, semantics
Yeah,
matter.
semantics, yeah. The attack that worked. The reason why, because
I got you,
there
didn't
the well
I? I
the
got you good.
Spanish American War, and the explosion of the Maine, which probably was actually an accident. And so we invaded Cuba, we get up with Guantanamo Bay, we end up taking over the Philippines, we take over Guam. I think we got Guam from that. And I think we always had Midway. But but that put us in, we kind of took over these Spanish colonies, and that put us in. America went through its colonial phase for a few years. Well, part of the reason why we were so concerned with Cuba is Spain as a colonial power was collapsing. It was becoming broken and solvent and weak. And America was scared shitless that Spain was going to sell Cuba to the Germans, because the Germans were a rising naval power and a rising military power, and they were on the prowl, and they were trying to have colonies, and they would have loved to have bought Cuba, and that was a serious concern. Like we
I
talked
want to
about it,
say
was in our
that I want to say
press.
that happened under, yeah. Didn't that happen under King Ferdinand? I believe it did. I'm losing
King
my
King
mind here. When you get old, these things happen.
Isn't King Ferdinand from Belgium? you think of
No, the
Bismarck?
Fernando. No. I probably have things mixed up, but I agree with everything you're saying and on the Cuba and things like that. But the part you just talk about, let's just go into Cuba. The part that always got me more than anything is that you have Cuba as their country, but yet we still hold Guantanamo Bay as American sovereignty. To me, that's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's well. I mean, there's actually a treaty. I mean, it was a treaty. It was a treaty enforced at gunpoint. Do you know the terms of the treaty? If I recall, the terms of the treaty are it's like the British had a treaty for Hong Kong that was like quote a 99-year lease, and they did that because
Right.
they're
And
like 99 years is basically forever. Well, until 1997 when
then it ran
they
out.
ran out, and it's like no one could ever. Well, the treaty we have in Guantanamo Bay is it's a treaty that allows the U.S. to occupy Guantanamo Bay. And the reason we have Guantanamo Bay is because it gives us the ability, especially before like jet fighters and modern weapons, it gives us the ability to project power south of Cuba to protect our interests because Cuba blocks Florida and all the Gulf Coast. Cuba's in the
Right.
kind of in the way. Well, Guantanamo Bay is on the south side of Cuba, so it gives us the ability to have a naval base and stuff to operate into the Gulf and the Caribbean, without having to sail around Cuba all the time. Well, the treaty is, for Guantanamo Bay, and the treaty goes forever unless quote both sides agree to end the treaty, and obviously Cuba can be like, we want to end the treaty, but the treaty says it can't end until we both agree. So we don't end the treaty. But also, if I recall, the treaty, it actually there's a payment, and I think I think it's like I'm making this number up, but I'm kind of not. It's something like 100 pieces of gold. It's in the treaty, so like every year I think through an intermediary, we pay Cuba like gold, like some kind of gold coins to keep the treaty
Hmm.
in effect. Because it's a treaty that was written in like in 1898, and it's like, well, fuck you, like that's just how they did treaties. Like they didn't have the wire transfer system, so it's like it's literally, I believe that the treaty for Guantanamo Bay is literally to this day paid every year in gold because they're
I actually had a friend that was stationed there, and he says it was a country club with the weather and the beach and all the other stuff. And what? Well, at one time they had quite a few political prisoners, but he says it was the best duty station he ever had.
yeah. I know of I have two acquaintances that did time there as not riflemen. So one of them worked for the FBI and another one worked for the Marine Corps. So
Yep.
yeah, so I mean I'm not unfamiliar, but he was not a he's a JAG officer. So
Oh.
yeah, so no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't Jack Nicholson. Like I ate breakfast 400 yards, 4,000 Cubans. Like he was a fucking lawyer. Um, you know,
Oh well, since we're on politics, have you been watching anything of the Trump trial?
I'm watching. No, I'm not watching any of it.
It's nothing but a dog and pony show between the New York Attorney General, that judge and all the other things, and it's it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But did you see where the Koch brothers or Cook brothers, however you pronounce it,
Coke.
are backing Nikki Haley?
Well, sure they are. Yeah.
I think they're hedging their bets is what they're doing.
At this point, I think backing Nikki Haley is. Well, I mean, everybody that backed DeSantis is all pissed off. DeSantis has lost all of
Right.
his backers. All of his big
Yes, he
money
has.
donors, they're all super pissed off because they think he's autistic. Like legitimately, that's been the rumor that they think he's in the spectrum because he has this hard time like connecting to people in person. Like there's stuff and you know what, like like the DeSantis thing. Like, talk about a guy that's gone up and then really come down. And you got to hand it to Nikki Haley, because I haven't always been the biggest Nikki Haley fan like this election cycle. I mean, I remember she was governor and she went to FN and fired the gun. But, like when they were talking about DeSantis and like wearing lifts in his boots, a lot of that, I was like, oh, here we go again, like Donald Trump with his small hands. Like, I don't think Donald Trump has small hands, but it's like, it's something they do. But it's like, man, I saw the one video of DeSantis walking across the stage, and dude, I used to wear cowboy boots every day. And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck kind of weird way that boot is working, but something is off with that. It was crazy. I mean, he looked like clown shoes, the way these things were
Yeah.
bending. It was like, what is going on there? Like, I think there actually could be something to that. And if you're going to wear, like, look, I get it. Like, I never think about it because I'm not a short person. I'm 6'1". So if I wear, like, the boots, I'm wearing a pair of boots right now that probably have an inch heel on them because they're fucking boots. I don't care. I don't think about it. Like, I don't think like, hey, I'm taller today. But if you're someone that's really insecure about your height and you're going to try to get away with like a 3-inch heel, how does that work? Like, I mean, can you never be in gym shoes? Like, you know what I mean?
I don't know. Well, oh yeah.
Like,
Well, that's my waiter, Chris.
well, yeah, but it's like, but if you're a guy and it's like, okay, like if I'm wearing boots or I'm wearing gym shoes, and let's say there's like a half-inch difference in my height, no one's going to notice. But if all of a sudden, if I'm
No,
6'1", and then I show up somewhere in public and now I'm 6'4", people will be like, geez, Marky, I don't remember you being that tall. It's like, if you're like a grown-ass man wearing 3-inch lifts, like, what the hell? Like, what's going on in your brain that either you're that insecure
well,
or you think you're going to get away with that?
I find it hard that you have boots on because I have never ever seen you out of sneakers.
I wear boots. I mean, I'm on the range. I wear boots every time I'm on the range. I can't wear gym shoes on the range. It tears. I mean, I
Well,
can't. No, I can.
I'm just saying I've never seen you in
If
them.
I go to the range and I drive straight to the pit and I get out of the truck and I just want to shoot something real quick and I don't have to walk off the pit, I can wear gym shoes a little bit if I want to. It's like, it's stupid. It's stupid to change my footwear just to shoot, like, I don't know, 50 rounds or some drill, do something real quick just to change it back and leave if I don't have to do any work or anything. So, but yeah, it's like DeSantis is done. DeSantis is probably over. I mean, look, all of this doesn't matter, chief political correspondent, because the Iowa caucuses is where the rubber meets the road. And
Right.
Nikki Haley has been in this basically saying, I just got to get to Iowa and I got to get to New Hampshire. Really, she's thinking that she's got to get to New Hampshire.
But none of them will beat Trump. And
Well,
you remember, well, let me finish. And you remember my prediction 8 months ago. I said Trump will win the nomination and he's going to pull Tim Scott for his VP running mate. Remember, I've said that all the time. We'll see how true it still comes out.
well, okay. See, the thing is, things change. Like, we were saying that maybe it would be DeSantis, and it was like he'll choose
You
DeSantis.
were saying
Well,
that.
no, I know,
I've never said it
well,
would be
no, people were
DeSantis.
saying he would choose DeSantis, and it's like, well, okay, DeSantis doesn't necessarily bring anything because if technically Trump's from Florida, I don't know how real that is. But it's like, okay, it's like, well, okay, all right. So, but we're going to go by the way things are today. Okay, the way things are today. Uh, Tim Scott did very poorly, surprisingly
Yes, he
poor. He did
did.
surprisingly bad.
Yes,
I
he
expected
did.
him to do much better. And Tim Scott was like, he and Nikki Haley are buddy buddy. I think he launched his career in Nikki Haley's living room, kind of thing, or like they really were close. They even live within like a couple miles of each other, like maybe 5 or 7 or 8 miles. Like, they know each other real well. And like, it was like, we're never going to really go after each other, kind of like Rubio and Jeb. Um, but you know, he got in the race. She's obviously been wanting to run for a while. They're both from South Carolina. You know, huge. She's popular in South Carolina, and it's like South Carolina is a conservative state. She's the one that's winning. She's winning the number 2 VP slot. You know, I said DeSantis.
Nope.
Wait, let me wait. You had your turn. I said
Go ahead.
DeSantis would
Oh,
be stupid. I said DeSantis would be stupid to take Trump's VP slot. He should never do that because it'll just wreck his future because he'll never be
right.
president. And the thing is, if Trump gets the nomination and he makes it across the finish line, why would he choose, if he's going to choose a candidate to help him electorally in the electoral college, okay, and he's got a choice between Tim Scott in South Carolina and Nikki Haley in South Carolina, why on earth would he choose Tim Scott over Nikki Haley?
Very easily. Black vote. Black vote. If they see Trump, okay, why did Biden pick your girlfriend for his running mate? The black
Yeah,
vote.
yeah, that's true.
The okay, so he's going to pick Tim Scott because Tim Scott is shown as he might not have did well in debates, but he is very, very, a good debater. He is very good. He's a very smart man, and he brings.
Don't oversell Tim Scott the way he performed. I was a huge
I
Tim
well,
Scott fan, but dude, I was a huge Tim Scott fan. I was a bigger Tim Scott fan than you were, and Tim Scott fell on his ass on this.
well, I told you that he did. I told you that he did, but the minority vote we'll see as like they did in Obama, as they did in Biden's running mate. The minority vote will see, hey, Trump's has a black man running with him, and that's what they're going to look at. They will not look at qualifications. They will look at skin color, and that's all. I mean, let's just call it like it
But
is
is
in
that
today's society.
but okay, does a black man, but it's a when you choose your vice presidential nominee, it's not a national vote. It's electoral vote.
I fully understand that, but they're also thinking more and more people of color will flock to the Republican side because Tim Scott will be on the ticket with Trump, and that if they vote and more numbers come out and they win that state, well, then there's more electoral votes. It's a complete cycle, but that's how it
Well,
works.
like the black vote typically goes like 98% Democrat. Like I don't know what they think the real percentages would be that it would be enough to make a difference. Like I don't know enough black votes. Like okay, is Donald Trump going to get enough black votes to carry New York State? No. Is Donald Trump going to get enough black votes to carry the push Pennsylvania over the top? Black votes are a strong voting bloc in South Carolina. But I don't
And
know.
they vote for Tim
I
Scott.
guess maybe in Mississippi, and I guess I won't. Okay.
No,
Wait. I'm
no,
going to help you.
no.
Your
Go
theory,
ahead.
your theory holds true for Georgia. If enough black votes, because Georgia has actually not consistently been conservative the past 3 election cycles, and
And you're
black votes would be enough to possibly help in Georgia. And if
no, and two other states come to mind right off the bat: Wisconsin and Michigan.
maybe Michigan because of Detroit, maybe.
Have you been in Milwaukee lately,
No, I mean I don't. I mean
or Madison?
no. Are there big black populations
Well,
there?
Milwaukee hugely.
Okay.
Madison, Madison has a pretty high, percentage of minority vote also. But the point being, I'm thinking that the Republican pollsters are thinking that if it is Tim Scott with Trump, that it will help in Georgia, it will help in Wisconsin, because remember, in Wisconsin and in Michigan, supposedly Trump only lost by 1 to 1.5% of the vote. Now, if they could swing some of that black vote into the Republican side, there's the electoral vote difference.
The first time Donald Trump won, he won Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan by a.
And
Oh,
Wisconsin.
no, but he won Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan by basically swinging by about 75,000 votes. They used to think it was about 50,000. Now I
Right.
think it's about 75,000 individual people in those three states made the difference on those three states flipping to Trump, which was also going to be a problem for Trump, in re-election, especially with how corrupt Pennsylvania is, that I've gone on podcast about saying. Your theory seems to, I'm receiving it well, because if you could just get a few percentage points, just a few, it could make a big difference
Right.
in a few of those states, because some of those states, like, I don't know how Trump, like, if Trump doesn't carry Georgia, I don't know how, if Trump doesn't carry Georgia, like, just as an example, like, he doesn't carry South Carolina, he doesn't carry Georgia, does it really matter what happens in Pennsylvania? You know what I'm saying? Like some of these states,
Right.
he really needs to make sure he carries them.
Well, what I think they're doing is hedging their bets, and that's why they'll. I mean, Tim Scott's not a dummy.
Oh, hey,
He's
hey,
he's a
hey.
very smart
Okay,
man.
hold on. Let's go back to this. Do you think Tim Scott is like you think he walks like Nathan Lane in the birdcage? Is Tim Scott gay? That's been the rumor for a long
um.
time, but I have an update on this.
Well, they also said Lindsay is too. I mean, they might sashay a little with each other, but other than that,
When I'm bringing this up for a reason. So, like, literally, like, days or a week before he decided to suddenly just get out of the race, Tim Scott showed up with this girl. He's like, "Okay, I'll introduce you to my girlfriend," and he introduces.
it was eye candy for the
I mean,
cameras.
I was like, she's a white girl, and I was like, "This is a pretty girl." I was like, "Okay," like, she wasn't like but she's a pretty girl. And they're like, "Well, how long have you two been dating?" And he was, I don't know if he said like a few weeks or maybe a few months. And I'm like, oh man, fuck me. Like, you just met this fucking girl. Like, he's been kind of portraying this as kind of like it's kind of like,
To throw the dogs off the
well,
scent.
no, but yeah, he's been portraying this as like, I keep my private life private. I'm not married, but I've been dating this girl for like a really long time. It's like I respect that, but it's like, dude, I don't know. But like all of a sudden he doesn't hardly know this girl that well, like relatively speaking. All of a sudden he brings her out on the national stage, and all of a sudden, boom, he's out of the race. And I can't help but if you want to have a conspiracy theory about FDR and Pearl Harbor, you're more likely to have a conspiracy theory that somebody said, hey, what about this little boy at the bathhouse, in Washington D.C. that we're about to do a story on? And he's like, I'm out. I'm out of the fucking race. Like, I don't
Uh,
know. I don't want Tim Scott to be gay. Even if he's gay, I like him. He seems so likable. But I was like, I'm feeling that girl. I'm like, that could be cool. Like, that could be cute. Donald Trump and his pretty
well,
wife, and Tim Scott and his little pretty wife or pretty wifette or whatever. Oh, dude, if
wife.
he could have her, then we could have a big wedding in the White House. We haven't had a big wedding like that since FDR's daughter got married, when she
No,
married the Longworth guy. Um,
no, wasn't
no one cares about
Julie
Nixon.
Julie. Well, then why am I the chief political correspondent if I'm bringing up history and facts? And nobody cares. She was married there too, Julie Nixon.
Yeah,
Did you forget?
it wasn't as big of a deal. It wasn't as big of a deal when FDR's daughter married. Is it Nicholas Longworth? Do I have that right? It was like the
Right.
wedding of the century. And if we could get, oh my God, if we could just drag Donald Trump and his mouth across the finish line with Tim Scott, and he had this black man, a black Republican man, married this white woman in this giant ceremony at the White House. It would, Donald Trump would produce this thing like it was the Miss Universe pageant. It would be it,
Oh
and the
yeah.
media would be fit to be tied. They would be fit to
Oh,
be
yeah.
tied.
Hey, wait a minute. And we could get that waiter or waitress I had tonight to serve the
You
wedding
know,
cake.
and like, what's the stop? What's the name of the woman who Anna Wintour, who swore she would never have the prettiest first lady we've ever had in American history, wouldn't have her on the cover or featured in Vogue magazine because she hated Donald Trump so bad. So now she's going to shit on the
Right.
black guy vice president's fucking wife too, because I mean it's like she's obviously going to be pretty
Well,
about it.
and you have to also look at it this way: if Trump, well, not if he will tag Tim Scott for his running mate. What is the press going to do? Run down a black man? Just think about that.
I mean, they just call him Uncle Tom.
Well, they will anyway, but
Well, you know what? You know what the
but
press? You know what the press will do? You know what the press? Well, the press. The thing. You know, if you think about this, it's almost like the double Uno reverse thing here, because the press is all about gay rights and trans and bi and and like all the minority stuff and like you can't criticize
right.
anybody. And it's like, wait a minute, what are they going to do? Are they going to launch a whisper campaign saying that Tim Scott is in the closet? It's like, really? Like, well, no, they're gonna be like, we're not saying this, but conservatives are saying it. Do you have any
That's what I
comment?
mean. They're going to be quite in the quandary.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Well, remember though, I remember over 8 months ago, who told you that he's going to get picked for Trump's mate, and you laughed at me? Did you not? But now you see the
No,
theory
you
behind him
at
being
one point
picked. In
you
my
had
mind,
suggested DeSantis.
I never said you play back the old pods. I've been on the Tim Scott thing forever. Listeners, if you're out there, write in with your answers of what Danny said.
Okay. Oh, it's
There we go.
yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? I will go on the record here. It's like I will say this because you were against this. Everybody's been against this guy, and he is. Look, he said some things that pissed me off. I'm like, he even had some real gas, but like Tim Scott. Oh, I don't know, but Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, he's lasted. He's lasted longer than what I thought. Um, uh, I
He calls out the press, and I like him for that.
he even you, everyone was like, who this fucking guy? I'm like, I don't know, dude. This guy knows more about what it means to be an American and a Republican and the Constitution and the Federalist Papers than most anybody else that's ever run for public office. I'm like, this guy's a pretty smart guy. Um,
He's a very smart man,
he did.
very
Oh, what
intelligent.
is? Oh. I have a theory. Here's my political theory. I came up with this, and I wanted to tell you. I'm glad I remembered it. So Nikki Haley has come out at the. She came out since the last debate, and she said that she wants to pass a law or a regulation of some kind that makes people be on the internet under their real name. Do you remember that?
No, I
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
First, I heard about it.
Yeah. Well, she said it somewhere in some kind of thing. I am convinced. I am convinced that after she said that, that the Republican Party, Ronna McDaniel, Ronna Romney McDaniel, is going there. They have to. The next debate, Vivek Ramaswamy cannot be on stage. They will have to raise the bar. They will have to do something. They cannot allow Vivek Ramaswamy to be on stage at the next president Republican debate if there's another one. And here's why. Nikki Haley got on national television and said, you need to be on the internet under your real name. You can't use an alias because we need to do this for reasons. A dude named Vivek Ramaswamy is going to turn to her and he's going to say, bitch, your name isn't even fucking Nikki Haley. It's like Nicaragua something whatever Haley. Like her real first name isn't even Nikki. It's something else. And he is going to cut her in half like with a samurai sword. And they have decided she's the one she's up DeSantis is down, and Vivek is trying to kill her the way that Tulsi Gabbard tried to knock Kamala Harris out, and they have to stop. They have to stop Vivek from getting that soundbite because her ass is hanging out in the breeze on this one like you can't believe. Nikki
Yeah.
Haley's real name, filibuster, talk for me for a minute because I'm going to look up her real name. Say something.
Um. Well, if they were to pass a law like that,
Oh, here we go.
myself include myself included, and a lot of other government types, we we'd have to get off the internet then.
Her name is her her name is
A lot of
her name
syllables.
is I got it. Her name is Namatra Randhawa Haley. If you hyphenate her last name, her birth name is Namatra Randhawa, and her married
Is
name
she
she's
is,
became a Haley because she married a guy named Haley.
is she Indian?
Yeah, she's half Indian, or she's full. No, she's
That's
full.
what I thought.
No, she's full Indian. Hold on, I think she's full Indian. Her parents are immigrants, I believe, born in South Carolina. Michael Haley's her husband. Yeah, both her parents are Indian. So yeah, she's Nimarata Ranhawa. And here's the thing: she can't make the argument of, well, we all come to America and, we anglicize or we Americanize and, John, not all of us kept our name John Bon Jovi. Some of us just became John Jovi or, I mean, like, or that kind of thing, right? She can't turn to a dude named Vivek Ramaswamy and say that shit. They have to stop him or he is going to destroy
Oh,
her
because he'll bring it
on that
up.
fucking stage. If they, I get this is my current, like, this is my conspiracy theory. They are sitting there. They're going to have to raise the bar so high because it's going to knock out Chris Christie. But see, Chris Christie doesn't want to be knocked out. He's like, I want us to go after Trump because I want to talk whatever. And so they're going to kill Christie to raise the support. You have to have some percentage to qualify, and they're going to have to kill Christie to kill Ramaswamy because they got to protect Nikki. That comment she made was literally like, "Bitch, have you looked in the mirror?" Like, just from a political,
But
like, mudslinging thing, it's like, talk about dumb, dumb. Like if she came up with that on her own, I can see her staff being like, oh fuck, I'm gonna have to clean this up. But if her staff came up, if she came up with it, she staffed it, and then they approved it, and she went out and said that stupid shit, I don't think she's qualified to be president because she can't play chess. I was like,
right.
wow, that's my current theory. Is they have to stop Vivek because he's going to kill her on this one.
Yep. I agree. They'll probably raise the percentage of what it polling percentage of where you are, and Christie's just going to go along for the ride, and so is the other guy. Bye.
So I want to say one more thing, and it's kind of politics, and it's kind of the Gaza thing, but it's not really. It's sort of like the fake American whatever. Because I want to. Do you remember a show called Sex in the City?
I never watched
Never
it.
watched it.
I remember it very well, but
You mean you
no,
you and John Wayne didn't sit and watch it together? Um.
I was busy sashaying.
So yeah, I did never knew John Wayne walked like that. So 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 Sex in the City, there's a woman who was on that show named, I think it's Cynthia Nixon. She was like this redheaded girl, like not the
Right.
prettiest one on the show. I hate to say it like that, but it'll help our non-Sex in the City listeners kind of identify who she is. She's not the prettiest of the girls on the show, and so. I guess she's a lesbian. She's always been a lesbian. It's like, okay, whatever. And she's kind of turned into this, she just pops up at these things, like, I don't know, like if she'd probably pop up at an anti-gun thing, the talk or whatever. So she came out and she declared, because she's Cynthia Nixon and she thinks she's important, that she's going to go on a hunger strike until the Palestinian war ends. Okay. The Israeli-Gaza war, Israeli-Palestinian war ends. Okay, and she did this.
Go.
She did this because a lot of people like this is going to be a sharp, fast, violent action, and then it'll be over. Like it was going to be. It's. I mean, this isn't going to go on forever. Well, unfortunately for Cynthia Nixon, people smarter than her have been like, I got news for you. This is going to go on for a while because they're going to go through the entire Gaza Strip and they're going to dig out all this infrastructure. So very quietly, after having this big hubbub about she's going to go on a hunger strike, 3 days later, she's like, "Well, the hunger strike's going to come to an end." Do you know what you call? Do you know what you call a 3-day hunger strike? They call it a cleanse. That's a fast. You know?
A
Yeah,
fast. I do that during
yeah. I
Lent.
mean, like high school wrestlers trying to make weight.
Wait,
cut
they do
they
that too.
cut more than that, and it's just like these people, they're so self-important that they just, it's like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to, like, you're Mahatma Gandhi, you're going to just waste away to nothing. You're going to die. You could die. You like within like 30 days you're just going to be skin and bones. Like you're going to probably
Well,
permanently damage your health.
now you talk about. Are you sure you want to do this? That's as bad as the guy that got arrested and had the pistol up his ass. Did you hear about that? At the book when they were booking him in.
Hold on. We've been going for a while. Let's do the police blotter because I got that in the blotter. Hold on. Let me.
Oh, I didn't know.
It's
I was
fine.
going to say, are you really sure about this?
Yeah, hold on. Make sure I still haven't
Go.
lost.
Oh my God, we've been going a long
Yeah,
time.
let's say. Hold on.
Wow.
So we got
Go
the
ahead.
police blotter.
I'm ready for the blotter.
I
Do you have a number 1, 2, or 3 that I could pick from?
I've got three. I got three of them. And so the first one comes out of California, and I'm kind of a person that's kind of down on marijuana. And one of the things, the reason I'm kind of down on this, and I've said this before, it's kind of a running joke, is as I've gotten older, and I kind of knew this when I was younger, but I've gotten older, I've realized the wisdom of the ages isn't just complete made up shit. Okay, and so like one of the things that I grew up with was people, the cool kids and whatever, they would criticize the idea of reefer madness and marijuana. Like they banned marijuana. And it's like, oh yeah, these fuckers, they went around and tried to convince everybody that marijuana is going to make you crazy and marijuana is healthy and this and that and whatever. And the more studies they do with marijuana, they're all legalizing marijuana. They just legalized pot in Ohio. Part of the reason I'm getting out. Is it's like it does real bad stuff to the brain. It's really bad for the lungs, especially how you smoke it. There's a lot of depression that comes. There is a guy I know who is on the internet and he has a podcast and he got a sponsor for pot, for like a medical marijuana or some kind of pot, recreational pot, and he loves pot, and he was getting paid to read live ads for pot. He started having such serious depression, he had to get off the pot. We also means he had to stop doing the sponsors. And it's like I mean, like it
Really?
was like a seriously affected his life. All of a sudden, he doesn't talk about pot anymore. He doesn't have pot sponsors anymore. And it's like, I'm just saying. Well, then this idea of reefer madness, it's like, well, that was all bullshit. It's like, I don't know, a guy that smokes pot I could just very easily see a guy in the 20s who smokes pot all day and lays around and is depressed. You'd be like, Jimmy, you need to get off the devil's lettuce and get out there and get a job. And then there's the story of scromining, where all these kids are smoking all this pot and they're showing up at the ERs overdosing and they're projectile vomiting and screaming at the same time. And this has happened so much, they have a name for it. It's the combination of the word screaming and the word vomiting, and they call it scromining. And so now here's the third story. This is out of California. A woman named Bryn Spector, 32, is convicted of killing her new boyfriend by stabbing him 100 times in cannabis induced psychosis after taking 2 hits from her lover's bong. So, okay, look, maybe that was just a defense that she put on, or maybe she lost her mind because she took a big, strong hit of the devil's lettuce, in some bong. But all I know is this. In 1927 or 25, whenever they banned pot, I never smoked pot. All I know is without the internet and without computers and without as much information as we have today, if you describe somebody who is living in a basement and you can't function, screaming and vomiting at the same time, and then randomly stabbing people, that sounds an awful lot like reefer madness to me. What would they call that? They would call that reefer madness. I'm just saying. Second story off the police blotter comes out of Cincinnati. Have you had a bunch of the Kia cars? The Kias get
I have one, remember?
oh fuck, that's right, you do. Um
Yeah, not Mrs. Danny has the other one, but my work car is a Kia.
um your work car is a Kia?
The one, yeah, it's a Sportage, the
When you when
small
you guys when
hatchback.
you when you guys came down, were you in her car or were you in?
Yeah, no, we were in the big Jeep Grand Cherokee. That's hers.
Okay. See, I thought it was a Jeep, but you didn't say Jeep, so I don't want to say that.
No,
Um,
I why we
well, we're
we
not
can't
we're
say
not sponsored by
product
Lamborghini. We
names.
can mention Jeep. So the city of
Oh,
Cincinnati has
okay.
come out with their annual crime statistics. So this is just the city of Cincinnati. Car thefts alone in the city of Cincinnati are up 150%. Up 150%. And I was like,
Wow.
well, what does that mean? It's like, well, I mean, 150%. Like if you have one car,
That means there's a lot of
well,
Kias and
if you have
Hyundais.
one car stolen, and then you're like, well, we have then two and a half cars stolen, and you're 150%, right? It's like, well, okay, maybe.
Right.
The city of Cincinnati has a population of around 300,000 people proper in the city. In the tri-state region outside of the city, that isn't the city, so the statistics don't cover this, of the county and the counties like Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky. There's about 2 million people in the region. The city of Cincinnati alone in 2023 has had 3,400 car thefts in a population of 300,000 people. That is insanity. That
Yeah,
is
it is.
out of control. And
Not to make a joke, but I wonder how many were the Kia and Hyundais.
probably 95% of them.
You know, people people ask me, "Aren't you worried to get your car stolen?" No.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
yeah,
No. What about carjack? Not worried about that much either.
yeah, you have a sacrifice. Your key is kind of like my range truck. You're like, yeah, it fucking happens. It happens. Um,
It's heavily insured. If you want it that bad, just tell me. Always remember those three little initials. What's that? ACP.
God Almighty. Um, so the third,
It took you a while to catch that. Why?
yeah,
Jeez.
the third, the
Well,
third,
do you have insurance? No, I have ACP.
yeah, the third. Stop it. The third thing on the police blotter.
You like that? You know it.
Yeah, I do. The third thing on the police blotter is what you were referencing out of the state of Indiana. An Indiana ex-convict, well, he's a current convict, I don't know why they could say ex, who is prohibited from carrying a fire. Look, the language, you could just say he's under disability and use less words. An ex-Indiana convict who was under disability from carrying a handgun had a firearm, had a handgun hidden in his rectum when he was booked into jail and underwent a body scan and strip search. Christopher Lloyd, 32, was a passenger riding in a vehicle that the police pulled over in the city of Evansville on Monday at about 2 a.m. for an obscured license plate. The driver and a second passenger were released without charges after they were searched by police. But when officers patted down Boyd, they discovered a small bag with multiple pills in his right sock, according to police report obtained by the smoking gun. So, yeah, well, that's not mine. That's somebody else's sock. You know,
Yeah. Hey,
Boyd
man.
claimed the pills were Percocets, and he had received them from his quote Aunt Trish to help with pain from having quote a bullet lodged in his spine. Boyd also said during the search that he could not spread his legs because of his spinal injury. because they want to tickle his rectum, and he's like, my butt, I can't, my whatever. While searching in Boyd's groin area, Boyd tensed up, police said in the report. The suspect was asked if he had anything stuffed in his groin or buttocks, the report noted, but Boyd stated that he did not. After Boyd was transported to the county jail, he was observed, quote, walking with a limp and appeared to be clutching his buttocks when he walked, unquote. According to, if any listener out there works in that jail and you could get me that intake security footage, I will give you swag from John 1911.
I got a turtle head.
Yeah.
I'm running to the John.
Stop it. Boyd was subsequently put through a body scanner, and a large object was detected in his groin area. It's like either dude is hung like a horse or he's hung like a high point. A strip search revealed 2 plastic bags containing marijuana tucked next to Boyd's scrotum. Boyd's scrotum recreational marijuana remains illegal in Indiana. Boyd then tensed up and refused to comply and was lowered to the ground. So they've already gone up in there, and this gun is so far up his ass, they still haven't detected it. Boyd tensed up. So it refused to comply and was lowered to the ground. An officer lowered Boyd's pants to remove the item that was in his rectum, but the suspect continued to clench his buttocks. The officer, quote, was able to see the object Boyd had in his rectum was a handgun, and the firearm was subsequently removed. It's unclear whether the handgun was loaded. Police confirmed the firearm was not stolen. So, hey, you know what? He didn't receive, he's not going to get charged with receiving stolen poopy property.
I'll bet you he had those cheeks clenched so tight he could have cracked walnuts in those fuckers.
Well, it's like, why am I reading this story to the listener? Because this story is chock full of detail. Ladies and gentlemen.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Are you there? So did I make sure I didn't lose you? So so the big question of this story is, what kind of gun was it? Am I breaking up?
I think you lost your internet again.
Well, let me check it because it says it's still here, but we're almost to the end, so I'm gonna go ahead. I apologize, everybody. The internet's just terrible. So anyway,
barely. Go ahead.
The gun hidden in Boyd's rectum.
Now I can.
The gun hidden in Boyd's rectum was a Smith & Wesson Bodyguard, a .380 caliber pistol that weighs about 12 ounces and is about 5 inches long. So the dude can take 5. The Blue Oyster Bar is calling.
Well, I'm going to say bye-bye because you're really fading out bad.
No. Stay here because it's I got to do the exit. The gun has a micro frame size, lightweight, and is simple to use. So this is a perfect ad for the lightweight for the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard. So anyway, we're losing you. So this wraps up episode 324, the John 1911 podcast. You want to see the more stories or pictures and links? Please go to the website at john1911.com. It's JOHN1911.com, where it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good night.
Bye-bye, everyone.
See ya.